So you just bought the pre-constructed Uzuri Blitz deck and you want to improve it without breaking the bank. This video will be going over some quick upgrades that you can make to this out-of-the-box deck for about $25. We'll be adding in some affordable equipment and key cards so that you can have a more powerful list for a reasonable price. If you're new to Flesh and Blood, I highly recommend you try these more budget upgraded lists before you decide to invest in more expensive cards like the legendary equipment. I'm going to be using Card Trader as my price guide for this video, although I highly recommend you shop around at some local stores to see if they're carrying singles before you buy online. But with that said, let's get into the list. Beginning with the equipment, we'll want to make a couple changes. First, we'll trade the Quelling Robe for the Blossom of Spring. This card gives us that extra resource we might need in a turn since the daggers cost 2 each, or can simply be used to play a Death Touch out of Arsenal, which is also very strong. We're then going to trade the Ironhide Legs for Snapdragon Scalers, which lets us give our stealth cards go again. This will keep our opponents on their toes, as they'll never know whether we'll be swapping out a stealth card or giving it go again to send another. Then, for the Arcane Barrier protection, we'll run the Nullrune Hood, Nullrune Gloves, and the Arcane Lantern. The benefit to having one-handed weapons is that we get to use the Lantern against wizards, letting us keep more of our normal equipment. Then we've got 2 more weapons to add to the deck, Orbitoclast and Scale Peeler. Orbitoclast is a dagger that punishes your opponents for blocking with non-attack actions, making it great against Rune Blades, Warriors, and Wizards. And the Scale Peeler is a dagger that punishes blocking with equipment, making it very effective against most heroes, but especially Guardian and Warrior. Running these alongside the Spider's Bites allows you a lot of flexibility in what to play in each game. And now let's move on to the main deck, where we'll first trade 2 red Peace of Minds for copies of red Razor Reflex. Oftentimes in Uzuri, you'll pitch a blue to use a dagger, then send an attack, so you'll still have a resource floating. Razor Reflex lets you take advantage of that and play even more mind games on your opponent. So not only does Razor Reflex help you get those useful stealth on hits, but it also keeps your opponents constantly guessing whether they'll be staring down a 6-power attack or dealing with go again. And speaking of go again, let's remove the yellow Withers for red Ravenous Rabbles. More than half of this deck is red, so this card will usually be coming in for 4. But even if it's 3 or 2, this card pressures the opponent's life total pretty effectively. They'll genuinely have to consider whether or not to block this card, as they know you can follow it up with a stealth card that has an on hit that you can also then swap out for something nastier. Chances are they'll want to save their blocks for what comes after the Ravenous Rabble. And following in that same vein, we'll remove the yellow Infects with red Scar for a Scar. This is essentially copies 3 and 4 of the Ravenous Rabble, except you'll have to have lower life total than the opponent to give it go again. But even if you're forced to block with 3 cards in hand to stop some nasty on hit, and this is all you have left, a 0 for 4 can still pressure the opponent's hand, especially if they're at low life. Next, we're going to remove the yellow Sedates and add in red Virulent Touches. The deck comes with some great 6-power attacks, so opponents may just block our stealth cards for 6 and call it a day. Virulent Touch can throw a wrench in that plan, as they'll end up with a Bloodrot Pox token due to blocking from hand. This means they'll still usually take 2, even though they thought that they fully blocked. And finally, to further punish overblocking, we'll trade the blue Sedates with Spreading Plagues. This attack reaction costs the 1 resource you'll usually have floating and gives Bloodrot Pox tokens equal to the cards your opponent defended with on this chain link. Usually this will give you 2 Bloodrot tokens, but can easily give 3 or 4 if your opponent had to use 2 blocks or equipment. Either way, this is a great reaction to use when your opponents attempt to preemptively block your 6 attack card. And that's it. That's the deck. Uzuri is a super interesting hero, threatening a bunch of different effects, as well as constantly keeping your opponent guessing what you'll do next. Hopefully this upgraded version serves as a great entry point into the game, and if you found this video helpful, consider leaving a like and possibly subscribing if you want to watch more Flesh and Blood content. But with that, I hope you all have a great day, and I hope you're enjoying Flesh and Blood.
If you liked this video and wanted to support me, consider checking out my Patreon. There's extra bonuses like Talishar card sleeves, early access to videos, and even your own GigaChat card. And to those who are already supporting me, you have my undying thanks. It's because of Chads like you that I can continue to do what I do. So please, stay Chadly, my friends.